Assalamualaikum to Dr. Amir. So today our team member will present about the leadership equation. So our team member is Chu Jiamin, Muhammad Anis bin Abdulaziz bin myself, Muhammad Ashraf Azim bin Ghazali, Muhammad Nur Haika bin Junaidi and Nur Hazira binti Ahmad Zabidi. So as you can see, this is our overview subject, which is leadership trait theory. Will be presented by me, leadership behavior theory, leadership contingency theory and transformational leadership. Next. Alright, so leadership trait theory, the distinctive physical and physio the distinctive physical and psychological characteristics is important for leadership effectiveness in the world, where it is an important trait for a leader to learn. A leader also should have basic intelligence. A good leader also need to have clear and strong values. A leader also need to have high level of personal energy. So Giseli states for effective leadership stated that the leader need for achievement intelligence, decisiveness, self-confidence, initiative, and supervisory ability. Meanwhile, Paul von Hindenburg, which are second president of post-World War I Germany, used the trait theory for selecting and developing leaders. Identified the primary qualities that determine leadership ability, where intelligence is bright versus dull, while vitality is energetic versus lazy. So as you can see, this is the third theory of leadership, which is consists of knowledge of the business, initiative, tenacity, energy, decision-making skills, flexibility, creativity, charisma, emotional intelligence, drive and motivation, confidence, honesty, and integrity. So that's all from me.
Hello everyone, my name is Chu Jamin. So now I'm going to present about the leadership behavior theory. So what is leadership behavior theory? Behavioral leadership theory involves the observing and evaluating of a leader's action and behaviors when they are responding to a specific situation. So this theory believes that leaders are made but not born. So this theory focuses on how leaders behave and assumes that these traits can be copied by other leaders. So they also focus heavily on the actions of leader, that this theory suggests that the best predictor of leadership success is viewing how a leader acts. These are the types of behavioral theory. So there are 10 types of leaders that are people-oriented leaders, task-oriented leaders, participative leaders, status quo leaders, indifferent, dictatorial, country club, sound, opportunistic, and paternalistic leaders. So I will give a little bit explanation of some of these type of leaders. So people-oriented leaders focus on behaviors that allow them to meet the needs of the people that they interact with, including the supervisors, employees, and clients. Next is task-oriented leaders. So these type of leaders are primarily focused on setting goals and achieving objectives. Task-oriented leaders thrive in well-structured environment and often show authoritative behavior. Third is participative leaders. So this type of leaders make an effort to include their entire team in decision-making processes. So they prioritize active communication, collaboration, and feedback. Next is status quo leaders. So this type of leaders make an effort to prioritize both productivity and employee satisfaction. They ensure that all the tasks are finished on time while also providing support and encouragement to their team members. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of this leadership behavior theory. The advantages are leaders can learn and decide what actions they want to implement or to become the kind of leader that they want to be. It also allows leaders to be flexible and adapt based on their circumstances and suggests anyone who is capable of becoming a leader. So when there are advantages, surely there are disadvantages. This theory, it allows flexibility, but it doesn't directly suggest how to behave in certain circumstances. So there are dozens of leadership styles that are stemmed from the behavioral theory, but there isn't a right one for every circumstances. So that's all for me. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good evening to Dr. Amir. So for my part, I would like to present about leadership contingency theory. And what is the leadership contingency theory? So leadership contingency theory is the efficiency of a leader depends on whether or not his style of leadership fit a certain scenario. And it is one setting and a person can be an efficient leader and another according to this notion. So contingency theory of leadership in the workplace. So these variables will be addressed by many leaders, each with distinctive leadership style. In case of contingency theory, there is always a particular scenario which challenges a leader, regardless of how effective. So leaders must therefore be able to recognize, as well as their own capabilities, that their success partly depends on their conditions. Managers and supervisors may have to adjust their leadership to the present scenario to lead their team successfully, or outsource part of the management task to a colleague. So next. So there are 4 types of contingency theory of leadership. First is fideler contingency theory. The second is situational leadership theory. Third is path goal theory, and the fourth is decision making theory. So we will go to the first type of leadership contingency theory. Next. So filial contingency theory is this notion suggests that effective leadership does not just depends on the style of the leadership, but also on how the situation is controlled. Basically, strong leadership interaction must be established to succeed. Leaders also need to clearly identify duties and explain goals and processes. They also must be able to distribute penalties and incentives. This theory only fits situations where groups are closely supervised and not team-based. It is also used at least preferred co-worker, which is LPC, scale to help determine the type of worker the leaders least likes working with. This theory emphasizes the leader's disposition as the main trait that defines the ability to lead. Next. So the second type of leadership contingency theory is situational leadership theory. So this model focuses more explicitly on the leadership style and maturity of individuals under the direction of the Halsey-Blunkett situational leadership theory. So this theory also shows that the leadership styles are driven by four conducts, which is tell, sell, participate, and delegate. The level of maturity varies from the lack of skill or inclination to carry out the duty to the desire and capacity to perform. The objective is to adjust leadership tactics on an eventual basis to the maturity level of the group in issue. Next. So the third is path goal theory. So basically, this idea brings together two popular ideas, which is purpose and expectations. It suggests that good leaders encourage others to achieve their goals. This approach requires that leaders ensure that their subordinates receive the assistance and knowledge needed to fulfill the objective outline. So basically, this notion essentially states that good leaders are creating clear ways that enable their subordinates attain goals and that they are working to eliminate barriers. Next. So the fourth is decision-making theory. So the premise that competent leaders would size up circumstances, appraise them, and then decide the group supports for effort and adapt the leadership style to match. It is also called the leadership Broom-Yeaton-Jago decision model. While contingency models differ on many areas, all of them have a common thread. The extremely important point of view of this idea is that the circumstance, tasks, and stakeholders depends on competence leadership. That's all from me. I would like to pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Hazira. I would like to present about transformational leadership. Charisma. The definition of charisma is extraordinary ability to inspire others and bring forth loyalty. The German sociologist Weber explained charisma as the certain quality that causes one to be set apart from ordinary people and to be treated as endowed with exceptional powers or qualities. In this sense, charisma is a gift or power of leadership. In 1976, R.J. Halls published a theory of charismatic leadership that has received a great deal of attention by researchers. He traces the influences of charismatic leader to a combination of personal characteristics and type of behavior. The characteristics of charismatic leader include dominant, ambitious, self-confident, as well as self-purpose. Charismatic leader demonstrate specific types of behavior, which is firstly, role model for the belief and value they want their followers to adopt. Secondly, demonstrate ability that elicit the respect of followers. Thirdly, have ideology goals with moral overtones. Fourthly, communicate high expectation and show confidence in their ability to meet those expectations. And lastly, it need the motivate of followers to take actions. The example of Lombardy shows an individual can generate the respect and following of others through a personal charisma, which is firstly, caring. No one has committed to achieving the goal and winning the game. Secondly, he worked harder. No one worked harder and more diligently to prepare. Thirdly, he know the right answer. He know the game of football. He know the teams and he had a plan to succeed. And fourthly, he believed. He believed in himself and his flower. Then that made them believers as well. And lastly, he keeping the bar high. He had uncompromising standardized that raised the pride of his team as they rose to the challenge. And lastly, knowing people. He know how to motivate each of his players, each in his own way. Next, the term transformational leadership can be used to describe the leadership of individuals such as Vince Lombardi. This leader shows of optimism, charm, intelligence, and other personal qualities to raise aspiration and transform individual and organization into new level of high performance. Transformational leadership was discussed by David Downton. J. McGregor Burns distinguished two types of leadership, which is transformational leadership and transactional leadership. The differences between the transformational leadership and transactional leadership, firstly, for transformational leadership, focus on the potential relationship between the leader and the followers, which means that the leader takes the motivate of followers to better reach the goal of both. Uh, for the transactional leaders, it focuses on exchange between leaders and followers. Example, manager who exchange pay and promotion for work performance. Secondly, engage the full person of the followers, and for transactional leaders, emphasize exchanging one thing for another. Research shows that transformational leadership has a positive effect on performance. Research shows that transformational leadership has a positive effect on performance. Transformational leadership can occur at all levels of an organization. Secondly, transformational leader can emerge in both formal and informal roles. That's all for my part. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Haikal bin Junaidi. I want to present about conclusion. In the conclusion, the role of leadership and management can work in different capacity when developing an organization. Leadership is built a system of management structure, and that management will support from work of leadership. They have two theory of leadership. Question first, trait theory is more focused on quality of the leader, and second, behavior theory more focused on leadership action. There are some characteristics of great leader are learned through experience, and no one too familiar to make a great leader. And finally is the leader must be learned to be flexible and have a great communication skill to be successful in their roles to understand their followers. That's all for me and our groups. Thank you.